All right, Rosie, you're gonna have to move over a little bit. This is Rosie. Rosie's a deaf dog who really loves to sleep all day on my sewing patterns and on my fabrics. Not as much as she loves to sleep on this. Wait, no. She loves to sleep on my sewing patterns and my fabrics way more than she actually likes sleeping on this lovely bed that I made her, but she's doing good today, sleeping on the bed. So today I am here to talk to you about what to do to sew, to work on your sewing when you can't actually sew. I found myself ill last week and it derailed all of my sewing plans. And the whole time I was sitting around, mindlessly scrolling on Instagram as one does, I was thinking I should be doing something else to further the sewing plans that I have in my mind. So I got to brainstorming and I have a short little list of things that you can do to sew when you can't actually sew. And the first thing is to clean our sewing spaces, which I'm going to jump in and do right now because my sewing space is a disaster. And even though I wasn't in the right mood to sew last week, I definitely could have gotten my little tushy off the couch and done a little tidying. So let's go tidy. Rosie, you want to tidy with me? She says no. She says, Mama, please turn on the space heater. I'm happy to report that tidying is now complete. So let's move on to thing number 2 that you can do to sew when you can't actually sew, and that is to do research. So if you have a project in mind that you're maybe planning to start soon, or maybe there's no project you have in mind, but maybe there's a sewing technique that you just can't get out of your brain, or maybe it's fitting. You really want to better understand fitting. If you can't actually sew, doing a little research into these things is a great way to spend your time. You'll be furthering your skills and your knowledge in the hobby, and hopefully you'll be setting yourself up to actually do some of these things that you're researching when the time is right. And speaking of research, thing number 3, we can research inspiration. So while we can't sew, we can think about and find some inspiration to help us plan out our next projects. Whether that's a little browsing on Pinterest, maybe doing some online window screen shopping, is that what it's called? Online screen shopping? Or maybe even visiting some shops to try some things on. I think it's always a great thing to do, especially if you're trying to build a cohesive wardrobe. It's a great thing to kind of keep that flow of inspiration coming, so when the time is right, you'll have a good plan of what you want to make. And that leads me to thing number 4, which is to actually solidify some of that inspiration. You can do that through sketching or drawing, which is a great way to exercise your creativity and do a little making at the same time. Now, for those of you who are like me and maybe not the world's best artist, I've got a great resource in my online social community called Social Sewists, where I teach you how to make your own custom croquis that is based off of your actual body. And this is just one of the many tutorials that I make and host online. Now, if you're not ready to think about the future, why not tackle things that you've already made. My next item that you could do when you're not sewing and still use your hands and still work on your sewing is to tackle your mending pile. Maybe you can't sew right now because you are going on a trip. Well, you can't bring, well, you can, but it's a little annoying to bring your sewing machine with you wherever you're going. But if you have some small mending to do, you could bring some of those projects and some hand tools to work on your trip. All right, and the last thing I have in mind to sew when you can't sew is to connect with some of your sewing friends, or to try and make new sewing friends. So if you're gonna be scrolling on Instagram, why not reach out to a few people whose projects you love, leave a couple of really nice comments, or use the opportunity to reach out to some of your friends who maybe you haven't chatted with in a while. Take the opportunity to make some connections with people who love doing what you do. So when you're ready to sew, you have other people who you can sew with. All right, and that's it. That is my list of things you can do to sew when you can't really sew. I feel like I've said that phrase many times throughout this short little video. And now I want to hear from you. When you can't sew, but you want to also spend some time on this hobby that we all love, what do you do? Give us your tips by leaving them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. We have a request for more Rosie, so let's see if we can get this creature in here. I know, what's Mama doing to you?